Next Gen Tech Talks podcast, where we share insights and tips from the best in business.
Welcome to Next Gen Tech Talks podcast. Today we have a very special guest with me. He is Srikumar Nair, Principal Group Product Manager, Microsoft, who oversees some of the most innovative and impactful projects in the tech industry. Srikumar, thank you for joining us and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to join your Tech Talk and talk about interesting things that is changing the industry. Thank you.
Yeah, let's deep dive into the discussion. So basically, let's start now. If we hear there are a lot of discussions about the Copilot, what is your thoughts on the Copilot in the space of Power Platform, specifically on Copilot Studio and Dataverse? Maybe you want to throw some lights on that.
Yeah. Gen AI is taking the industry by storm. Every product, every organization is trying to see how I can get the best out of it, right? And when we talk about Copilot, the way to think about it is any place where my business or organization is spending time on repetitive tasks or tasks that is actually not requiring human intelligence to actually do those tasks end to end, you should be thinking of leveraging AI to accelerate it or somehow make it in such a way that it doesn't drain much of the employees' resourceful, useful time here. So Copilot is actually your best option there to kind of take that process and trying to leverage the power of AI to make it more effective and more optimal for your organizational needs. Yep. And when we talk of how to get that done, Copilot Studio is your best buddy on how to think about it. Would be if you take like 15, 20 years back, how Visual Studio improved developer productivity. Copilot Studio is going to do the same thing for your Copilot enabled applications. With Copilot Studio, what we're trying to do is make the scenario for your developers or even low code makers so simple that at the click of a fingertip basically make all the data that you are sitting on in enterprise to be made available as knowledge to your copilots so that they can have the relevant information and data to actually do the AI operations. And as we know, AI is only going to be as effective as your data. So Dataverse will play a big role in powering the knowledge for the Copilot Studio ecosystem. And we, as you must have seen in the recent build announcements that we did at Microsoft Build, most of the announcements were around Copilot Studio, also accompanied what we talked about Copilot connectors as well. So along with Copilot connectors and Dataverse, Copilot Studio is here to help you AI enable your applications very soon.
That's really helpful for those who don't know what exactly Copilot and how Copilot is helping in this space. And it's really short and scripts and it covers almost everything, I will say. Those who don't know how Copilot is helping in Microsoft ecosystem, I think those audiences are looking into this podcast. It will be helpful for them. And okay, let's move on to next. You just mentioned actually knowledge part of the Copilot. So maybe you want to throw some light on that. How exactly knowledge base is playing the role in the Copilot?
Yeah, thank you, Gaurav. So when you talk of copilots in general, the anatomy of copilot, right? There are basically two things that matter. One is the data that you're operating on, and the actual operation that you're going to do it. You might start with non-consequential, simple queries like, "Hey, I used to search for data," and search plays a big role even today. Like if you look at some of the studies, it's pretty obvious that up to 68% of the data that enterprise is sitting on never gets utilized. And that's a big uh, revelation, if you might say. And purely it's because most people don't know that they're sitting on this pile of data. And if you ask any salesman, any customer service agent, or for that matter, any HR executive, a lot of probably a significant portion of their day is spent in searching for information to answer some queries or to kind of take the next action on that information. And as part of what we're trying to tell here is, once you kind of tell Copilot where these data sets are, broader sets of data is sitting, like your data sources might be in SQL Server, or maybe Dataverse itself, or for that matter, even an SAP system or an Oracle database. Once you make all these available to Copilot and tell them where to go understand this data, that's basically you're enriching the knowledge of Copilot by making that aware, making that Copilot aware of these knowledge sources. It just becomes smarter, and the way it works is we just either go crawl that database and try to get a sense of the data that is there and cache some of the data, or some of the places where it is not needed to move the data. We approach a no copy, no ETL approach to just connect in real time by doing the natural language transition to an API query, and then just query the data and federate it out. So once we know where the data is, that's basically what we are trying to say, building the knowledge graph for the Copilot so that it knows where to go for a certain type of information. That's precisely what we're trying to do with the knowledge piece of it in the Copilot Studio. And then, of course, once you are equipping it with knowledge, next comes the sort of actions that you want to do on it. This is where the power of Dataverse plugins and the AI plugins that we have introduced as well in the last few months is going to come into play. So, for example, you want to kind of retrieve an order, and once you retrieve the order, the next thing that you want to do is probably process the order or check inventory. And those are logical steps of what you would do with data. And those are the operations that we have tried to leverage some of the existing investments that you have done in the plugins to be easily converted into natural language actions or skills. Some people call it as skills, but at the end of the day, these are operations that you do on the knowledge set that you're sitting on, and making them to respond to natural language prompts than those traditional API-based parameters that you would pass to them. That is basically how the enterprise applications have evolved. So how do we make that transition quickly from taking an input parameter for an API to be able to kind of simply take a natural language prompt and invoke those actions on that data? That's pretty much as simple as explaining how the Copilot transition is going to happen for your business applications.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for the information actually. So I just want to ask one question here. You healthcare or banking, you consider data residency is coming into the play. So in that note, actually, what is your thought? How we can put forth, how we can position Copilot in that scenario?
Actually, that's a very great question, Golok. If you look at it, as with every new technology, there'll be some healthy skepticism that comes along with it.
Right.
And AI, as such, we know, oh, what will happen? I don't have control. And what will happen? Especially your IT admins are concerned about what if it just changes the data without my knowledge? So all these are healthy skepticism, I would say. At the same time, what helps in those cases is having a good set of governance and security mechanisms that we put in place when we are talking about the Copilot. I'll get to those details very soon, but let's just start with the basic things. Government and regulated industries, right? And some
Mm.
of the things where I want things to be also autonomous. And that's where the next set of evolution of Copilot is going to happen. Today, the Copilot that you are seeing is mostly interactive, where a human asks a question, or a human first gives a natural language prompt, and then the next set of actions happen. The natural evolution of that Copilot is going to be more like an agentic Copilot, or agents, as you must be hearing. And those agents are going to be operating within the principles of what you are going to be defining. At the same time, it's also going to learn a little bit about based on the knowledge, because if you do two actions all the time, or for like say 20 times, you are always going to do a certain sequence of action. It's going to learn from it, and it will ask you whether you want to kind of automate this and not wait for a user prompt, because sometimes those are going to slow down the processes. So it will be a slow evolution from a interactive Copilot to an agentic platform, which will be much more autonomous. But at the same time, you will have things that we have built in the platform. For example, we still, as long as your data is in Dataverse and in the knowledge ecosystem under the Copilot Studio, you will have the basic principles of data loss prevention, where you can say, I don't want certain data to be touched as part of the Copilot. revolution until I'm pretty confident on what it is doing. At the same time, you can also say there is very business critical sensitive about business sensitive data that I don't want to yet make it part of it. So those controls are still going to be in the hands of the IT admins where you can control it. At the same time, the regulated industries, as we said, we are betting on Dataverse platform, which is already certified for all the certifications that you can think of to operate in this like payment card industry or be it healthcare domain, and also data residency aspects of it. So Dataverse, for that matter, actually is GDPR compliant as well. So if you are keeping the environment in a particular region like Europe, one of the data centers, we do not move that data out of the data center. So those things are still going to be respected. At the same time, as you must be knowing, the role-based security, the granular role level security, and the column-based security. At the same time, we also are introducing column masking, data masking for sensitive data that is out there. And if you haven't heard about CMK, customer managed keys, those are some advanced security features that are on the Dataverse platform. With Copilot, none of that is getting compromised. So just because I enabled Copilot on a data set does not mean you will get access, you will be giving access to an end user to some data set that he or she did not have access to. It will still follow the basic rules of what privileges that are set up in the data system. Even when we are trying to do a Copilot on a non-Microsoft data source, for example, some of the SQL or Confluence dataset or ServiceNow knowledge articles, we are not bypassing any of the security system. We are still firing the APIs in the same way. The security masking will still happen, and you will only see the data that you are having access to. So all of those apprehensions are valid, but once they learn more about how we operate the platform and how things work under the hood, slowly but surely, I'm sure these customers will come around and say, yes, we want Copilot, we want more of the Copilot, and we are betting on Copilot because we find it to be safe. So think of Copilot as earlier used to have forms and buttons where you used to go and click. Copilot is just yet another client that happens to take natural language input. So that's basically the transformation that has happened. If you overthink of it as uh, like some sci-fi movie where AIs are going to come and take over my system and all that, that's where all the apprehension starts. So once you start getting the details, and as we speak to customers, they appreciate the details that we share through our learning documentation, and also through we're trying to also do it through some of our products to explain when Copilot is going to answer some questions, it's also going to explain how we learned about that answer so that there is some trust established also. Because one of the big things we are also seeing is with GPT, there is a bunch of hallucination that can happen. It makes up data when there is no data, because that's why it's called as generative AI, right? But
Yeah.
when it comes to business scenarios, that hallucination can be detrimental if it is not used in the right place, right? So when you're asking for a data that is relevant for you to do business transaction, you want accurate data than made up data. So in those cases, we are also investing in building some of those features within the Copilot ecosystem that will help you explain how we got the answer, so that you can actually see where is this data coming from. There are citations in the sources that we are quoting, thereby helping customers to build trust over a period of time into this Copilot ecosystem.
Okay. Okay. It's really helpful actually. Those who are listening in this, maybe they will get some of the answers, whatever running in the mind. Why we'll use the Copilot and other things, but still, as we hear, we respect your decision. Your okay. Coming to next, actually on this line, I understand there are few SIs are there. They have their own in this context, for example, customers are not looking towards using the direct Copilot, but they still want to leverage some of the capabilities of the Dynamics and Power Platform, other things. And here comes some of the SIs have their own GPT models. They may have their own machine learning models they build, but they still want to plug the Copilot capabilities or your platform capabilities. So in this point of view, what is your thoughts and input? How SIs can collaborate with Microsoft? What is your thoughts on this actually?
Yeah, that's a great question, Golok. So Microsoft, I wouldn't be the Microsoft spokesman to tell exactly
I fully understand.
what is that scenario, but we're building a platform. So when you talk about platform, we welcome SIs to build on this platform, right?
Mm,
And when I say this, basically, if you look at the Copilot connector ecosystem, we have about 1400 plus connectors. Those connectors,
mm,
if you go and look at it, they are from all the SIs, ISVs that are building on the platform. So we welcome them to build more connectors. At the same time, as we see GPT models are also evolving over a period of
mm,
time, you will see more and more small language models also coming into play. So the way we are thinking of Copilot Studio to evolve is also that we'll be like bring your own models as well to the play, so that you don't have to kind of stick with what Microsoft is offering you. At the same time,
mm,
for like prompt curation, for summarization and basic scenarios, you're not going to bet on some radically different model just because you want a summary in this way. When it comes to business domain and specialized knowledge, that's where the like bringing your own model might be playing a big role in differentiation that you might see. So
mm.
we are going to be supportive of those scenarios as well. It's just that it will take some time. We are investing in it. Some of those will will be coming sooner in the next few announcements that we'll be making. At the same time, we are happy to collaborate with the SIs and the ISVs to build a healthy Copilot ecosystem that we want to enable for our customers.
Okay, perfect. And I have a last question. You mentioned the pilots are there, and SIs can play the role whenever they want. Along with Microsoft, definitely there is a scope of collaboration. So, in that note, I understand also there are open questions on Dataverse. Now, few have the concern that if we bring my thing to Dataverse, what is the USP of the Dataverse? We want to hear from your POV on this. Let's say they will keep their own database, and if they keep on Dataverse with
Yeah,
their GPT models and whatever they have. Yeah.
yeah. I think that's a fair question. Like,
Yeah.
especially if you ask any organization, moving the data from one system to another system is a pain, and my data migration is one of those projects that can take so many months, especially given the amount, like depending on how much data you have and the kind of dependencies that you've taken on that data source, right? So we are fully respectful of that scenario. And if you see, we do enable something within Dataverse natively also, what is called as virtual tables. What it helps
Hmm.
is, like, without moving your data, we are able to connect Dataverse virtually to that data set, so that you can model the data in Dataverse and make it look like a native table, but at the same time, none of your security permissions or anything that is physically the data is not moving from where your remote systems are. And bringing that as a virtual table to Dataverse, you are actually making Dataverse aware of that table or that data set that is sitting remotely under a different ecosystem. But at the same time, because as I was saying, the ultimate aim of having data is you do operation on it and you get it when you need it. For example, when somebody's searching for something, that data needs to be seen so that somebody can make use of that data, and the ROI of saving or storing that data actually is fulfilled. And when you're talking about Copilot Studio, when we are saying we are betting on Dataverse to be that brain of that Copilot Studio, the knowledge piece of it, you better make those external knowledge sources also connected to Dataverse either physically or through virtually. And when I say physically, we also have now enabled made it much more easier for you to bring data into Dataverse through AI assisted mapping, Power Platform data flows, and all of these things. But I understand that if you do not want to physically move it, at least make it virtually available to Dataverse, so that within Dataverse it is going to treat it as a native data source without compromising any of your physical data residency needs, or for that matter, the security permissions that you have already set up. All of that is fully respected. It's just that you're telling Dataverse that, hey, I have a table here. The schema looks like this, and when I want, I can always connect. Dataverse internally will just go and connect to it as needed, and it will still respect everything as if it's an external ODBC or OData data source. Basically, that's how it will treat it. And that is basically the summary of it, as how I would like to pitch it, right?
Okay.
So whether bringing the data into Dataverse physically or virtually, there are benefits to it. And everything we talked about governance and security in the previous question about regulated industry, you don't have to worry about it because Dataverse will take care of that scenario for you. Otherwise, you're building not just data. We are also talking about the web services layer, the logic layer, some of the investments we are doing in the business logic, like low code plugins and all, are
Yeah.
also like you can benefit out of it without having to invest another set of web services layer on top of that, where you have to also kind of now embed business logic. How do I introduce that? That is also going to be the total cost of ownership, as we call it, right? So those are, I would say, that is where I will probably summarize it to say there is definitely benefits of it. And with the Copilot ecosystem and Copilot Studio, you will see that that same benefit getting multiplied many times as you actually think of Dataverse in your data migration story. Data migration, again, either physically or virtually, think about it to leverage Dataverse to the maximum.
Okay. Thanks for the input. I'm just adding one more question. So the question is all about, we are looking earlier the pro code to now, later we came to low code. Now we are moving towards no pro code to low code. Now it is no code at all. It's all about, I want human like natural language processing. So how, Srikumar, you feel the future it will be? Now the trained in mindset of the people, it's keep making human natural language process so far. So how you envision, it's just an open question, just to put your thoughts. How you
Yeah, I would
envision?
say from the advent of computing, right, probably about 60 years ago, there has been a desire by humankind to say one day the machines will listen to humans in their language that they speak, right? I think we are just going closer and closer to that dream, is what I would say.
Yeah,
Yes, we used to we started coding in uh, assembly language, then we kind of moved
yeah,
to like much more structured language, and eventually we started low code, and then eventually no code and natural language. That's just a progression of how systems are getting much and more smarter,
smart. Yeah.
and the GPUs and the cost of running this compute is, as it comes down further, you
Hmm.
will see the natural evolution happening. And I just feel this uh, it'll just go exponentially even faster because of the some of the investments or advancements that is happening on the underlying hardware and the middleware that is happening there.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I would
yeah,
say pro code is not going away. You might
yeah.
still have complex
That's true.
scenarios where developers need to code, but what you should look at this natural language and low code revolution is even pro code developers do not have to spend hours and hours writing a few lines of code, that we can solve it easily now because of the progress or advancement that is happening. So from Visual Studio to Copilot Studio, how that natural transition happens, it's just a matter of time. So I would say we just have to embrace it and get
Yeah,
maximum out of it. That is basically having a positive attitude. It will help
yeah.
both pro code developers as well as citizen makers to make the best use of this AI revolution that is happening.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense. Actually, yeah, I can correlate. It's like it's a transformative journey for software industry or IT industry. I can say now it is all about. Like earlier, I remember in one of the IEEE conference, one of the professor was saying, earlier days we are using huge machines. Now we came down to scale down to a microprocessor chip. Now
Yeah.
that's the transformation in hardware industry. Now it is a transformation of the software industry. It's across. It's happening. It's good for the humanity. It's good for everyone. And yeah, I think that's where I will rest on the technical side. I will just ask few casual questions. Kumar, how is your day in a life? How you spent in your day specifically?
uh, I would say my day was as every product managers, right? We look at various things. Most importantly, how are our products doing? How are the features adoption going? And then I would be lying if I say we do not get customer escalations to respond to. So
Yeah,
there is a fire drill going on. But I would say the most disruptive experience happened in November 30, 2022, after ChatGPT was
yeah,
probably unveiled to the world. Life has been on probably like fast track, like a bullet train. Things are moving so fast that before we can catch breathe, there's the next set of innovations that are coming, and we want to kind of bring all their innovations into the business application customers and trying to see what areas of businesses can be transformed, be it through sales, customer service. And we being the platform team, we have to kind of on one end look at the low code
Yeah.
side of the world. At the same time, we are also looking at the complex CRM and ERP processes that customers are betting on us to build. So it's a mix of both. As I said, world has changed after November
Yeah, I
30,
think
2022 is what I would say.
yeah, I think in that note I have another linking question. If this is the case, how you manage your personal and professional life?
I would say it's a very hard question to answer. You got to kind of find time for everything. Otherwise, at the same time,
Yeah.
you also prevent yourself
I,
from burning out. So, um,
okay.
yeah, we.
Then
I think
then
with ChatGPT won't have answer to it. So let's leave it there.
Okay, then in that note, we don't want to take much of your time, and thank you so much for accepting this request and giving us some time. And I understand you guys are a little bit, not little bit, too much of busy, but still you bring some time to join us. And hopefully, you guys will get some input. Or you got some really insights how exactly things are going on, how the evolution is taking place across the ecosystem, across Microsoft tech space, even Microsoft across globe. So let's embrace and move towards the newer journey. And in that note, thank you, Srikumar, for joining us.
Thank you,
And
Ola. Thank you. It was a
thank you
pleasure
so much.
talking to you and your
Thank you for listening. Looking forward to see you on a new topic. Till then, bye bye.